Welcome back to the kitchen. Today we're going to be making a dessert by popular demand. People seem to want to have more desserts, and that's fine with me. I like eating desserts. I don't make a lot of desserts, but the one dessert I make a lot of is crostata. And crostata is one of those old-fashioned Italian desserts. Usually buy it at a bakery, not a fancy bakery that has like pastries, but more of like a bakery that sells bread, because it's a very simple, rustic dessert. The problem is, a lot of the crostata that you buy in bakeries aren't really that good, I have to say, and that's one of the reasons is because they don't use butter. A lot of the bakeries use margarine, and since this crostata, this cake, just has like 6 ingredients, if you use good butter, it's going to make a good crostata. And the other thing is a really great jam, and today we're using jam that I made out of apricots. And a lot of times when you buy a store-bought crostata, the only choice you get, they ask you, would you like a light one or a dark one? And that's how they describe the jam. So it's dark jam, which could be anything like cherry, maybe if you're lucky, or some sort of mixed berry, or light jam, which maybe is peach or apricot. But anyway, homemade crostata are so much better. Super easy to make. I make them all the time when people are coming over, and I have people coming over tonight for dinner. So I thought it would be a good excuse to show you how to do it. So anyway, start with a big bowl, and you need 1.5 cups of flour. Oh, by the way, this recipe is everywhere. I've published it a million times on my blog. It's in the Italian Table. I think it's in Eating Rome as well. I think it's even in Eating My Way Through Italy. It's everywhere, so don't worry about it. So anyway, so this is 1.5 cups of flour. Most of my recipes call for all-purpose flour. I actually like using a little bit of whole wheat, so this is 1 cup of whole wheat flour and 1/2 cup of white flour. Just put it in here. And what I'm going to do now is sort of make a well in the middle. And I mentioned butter. So the butter I use, I do not use Italian butter because Italian butter is usually not that great. This is Danish butter, Lure Pack. Just use any high quality butter. You want it to be room temperature. So this is a stick of butter, 7 tablespoons, 125 grams. I'm going to just put it there in the middle. And now what I'm going to do is, see these eggs? Actually, what I'm going to put the sugar in first. 1/2 cup of sugar, pinch of salt. And what I'm going to do is just sort of mix the butter with the sugar, just to sort of, and if your butter is room temperature, this happens very fast. Of course, you could do this in a mixer, but it's usually done before. It's much faster just to clean the bowl. I don't know, I find it easier to do with my hands. Maybe that's just because I'm used to it. Anyway, now, most of the sugar is now in the butter. I'm going to put 2 egg yolks, room temperature as well. Going to keep mixing those. And now I'm just mixing, if you could see, the butter with the egg yolk, and slowly bring the flour in. And that's all there is to it. And so this is a short crust. It's not to be confused with like a flaky pie crust. It's more like, almost like shortbread cookies. So what you're really doing is almost making a big cookie. So here it's coming together. And you want to use sort of the heel of your hand to mush it all together. I'm going to just take this off my fingers now. Use the other hand. It's a little cleaner. And it'll feel a little bit grainy from the sugar. Well, it also feels a bit grainy because it's whole wheat. So when it's almost all together, what I usually do is just turn it off, put it there. And you just want to just sort of bring it all together so you don't have any dry bits left. I'm not really kneading it, I'm just sort of mushing it together. And because it's a hot day, this is coming together really quickly because I left the butter out for about, I don't know, an hour. Just get all those little bits together. And there you go. And now I'm going to divide that in half. So it's a circle. I'm going to divide that in half. And then I'm going to make them into 2 balls. Sort of pat them into a circle. Now I'm going to wrap that up in plastic, and I'm going to put that in the fridge. I'm only going to put it in the fridge for about a half an hour. You don't want to leave it too long because it gets really hard. I just want it to firm up a bit so I can roll it out. So the dough is now chilled. I've got the oven preheating, and now I have my pan. And I always use one of these tart pans with a removable bottom. I think it makes it easier to take out. I have lined the bottom with a piece of parchment. So that's all ready here. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to kind of start to roll out the dough. But this is not the kind of pie crust that's going to be this beautiful thin one piece of crust. It's going to fall apart, but that's okay. And usually sometimes I just don't even bother rolling this out. I just press it in, and that's fine too. But I'm gonna, oh yeah, this is working. And you'll see it's starting to fall apart at the edges. That's fine. I'm just gonna sort of patch it together. And whoops, there it goes. It's starting to break already. I could have left it in for a little bit longer. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do, it's nowhere near rolled out, but it's starting to fall apart. So I'm just gonna pick it up by rolling it, onto this rolling pin, and I'm just gonna plop it in there. And you can see it's a complete mess. But that's okay. I'm just gonna press it out until it covers the bottom. And that's the great thing about this crust, this short crust. It doesn't have to be perfect. Here's the other one. And I'm going to take that and just use little pieces here and there until, there we go. And what you want to do, you want to make sure that it goes up the sides, because those sides, they're going to be almost like cookies at the edge of the crostata, and they're really, really good. So I'm going to keep doing this, and I'll be right back. All nice and covered. Now, when you buy a crostata in a bakery, and a lot of other crostata recipes that you find online, they'll have those really pretty strips over the top. That's great. I can't be bothered. Sometimes if I have a little bit of leftover dough, I'll make little polka dots and put them on top, but I like to keep this dessert as easy as possible. So there you have it. It's completely covered now. And what I'm going to do is cover this with jam. So I mentioned how important it is to use really good quality butter. It's also good, let me get a spoon, to use good quality jam. And this is the best because I made it. This was apricot jam I made a few weeks ago. And usually what you want to do, about a cup of jam will work on this. So about a jar of jam. I'm going to use the rest of this, which is already started. And then more here. And you don't want a ton. You want this sort of slick of jam on here. I would say about 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to use all of this. And that's going to end up being about a cup. And you just smooth it out at the back of your spoon. And so I have various versions of this tart on my website. And there's one I do with ricotta and chocolate chips. There's one I do with ricotta and strawberry jam. And then if you really want to get fancy, you can also sprinkle nuts on top of this if you'd like. But I like to keep it simple. Let's see. Okay, that's good. And now it goes in the oven for about a half an hour, 40 minutes. You want to keep your eye on it. Basically, you're just cooking the crust, and you don't want the crust to overcook. You don't want it to get burned because the jam's already cooked, right? Anyway, I'm going to go put that in the oven. I'll be right back when it's done. It's done. I baked it for 25 minutes exactly. That was at 350 Fahrenheit, 180 centigrade, and you can see the crust is nice and golden. It's still really hot. I'm going to let it cool off, and then I'm going to very carefully take it out of this pan, and that's going to be pretty easy because it has that, special bottom that comes out, removable bottom. I'm going to put it on a plate, and it will be all ready for my guests when they arrive. And I just remind you that the recipe is on my website many times. It's in my book, The Italian Table. It's in my book, Eating Rome. It's in my book, Eating My Way Through Italy, in different variations. And anyway, this is the classic with jam, and I hope you enjoy it.